One major part of history is the discovery of new land and other things. It is one of the many reasons why the world is the way it is today. There have been many great men and women who have made a discovery so life-changing that it is recorded in history forever. This is one such story. Welcome back to the Told You Another Story channel. In this video, we will be looking at the story of the forgotten Italian explorer, Amerigo Vespucci. We have heard of people like Christopher Columbus who explored the world and discovered a new land that currently serves as the location of a country. However, he isn't the only explorer in history, nor was he the only one who discovered something pretty neat. The world you see today wasn't always like this, and back in the 15th century, many parts of the globe needed to be explored and discovered. This gave rise to the Age of Discovery, or Age of Exploration, a period that ran approximately from the 15th to the 17th century in European history when seafaring Europeans explored regions across the continent. This gave rise to many explorers like Amerigo Vespucci who were sent by European countries to travel around the globe to discover new land. Amerigo Vespucci was born on March 9, 1451, in Florence, Italy, one of the wealthiest Italian city-states, as well as a center of Renaissance art and learning. He was the third son of a Florentine notary for the Money Changers Guild named Nastasio Vespucci and his wife Lisa di Giovanni Mini. Amerigo's immediate family was not particularly prosperous, but they had a couple of political connections. His grandfather, also named Amerigo Vespucci, served as the chancellor of the Florentine government for a total of 36 years, and Amerigo's father also served in the Florentine government and other guild offices. Amerigo's older brothers, Antonio and Girolamo, went to study at the University of Pisa, with Antonio following in his father's footsteps to become a notary, while Girolamo joined the Knights Hospitalier of the Church in Rhodes. Amerigo's career path appeared uncertain, and rather than following his brothers to the university, he stayed in Florence and was educated by his uncle, a Dominican friar, in the monastery of San Marco named Giorgio Antonio Vespucci. As luck would have it, Amerigo's uncle was one of the most renowned humanist scholars in Florence at the time, and he gave Amerigo a broad education in literature, philosophy, rhetoric, and Latin. Amerigo was also introduced to geography and astronomy, which played a huge part in his career as an explorer. Amerigo's later writings showed a familiarity with the work of the classic Greek cosmographers Strabo and Claudius Ptolemy, and the most recent work of Florentine astronomer Paolo dal Pozzo Toscanelli. In 1478, Amerigo's older cousin, Guido Antonio Vespucci, led a Florentine diplomatic mission to Paris and invited Amerigo to join him. His role wasn't clear, but it was probably as a private secretary or an attaché. During their journey, they had business in Bologna, Milan, and Lyon, and had to make stops at each place. Their aim in traveling to Paris was to acquire French support for Florence's war with Naples. However, Louis XI was worried, and the diplomatic mission returned to Florence in 1481 with hardly anything to show for their efforts. After his trip to Paris, Amerigo worked with his father for some time while continuing his studies in science. In 1482, after losing his father, he went to work for the head of a junior branch of the Medici family, Lorenzo di Pierfrancesco di Medici. While Amerigo was 12 years older than Lorenzo, they had been schoolmates under the teachings of Giorgio Antonio Vespucci. Amerigo worked as a household manager first, and then steadily took on more responsibilities and handled various business dealings for the family, both at home and abroad. In 1488, Lorenzo became unhappy with Tommaso Caponi, his Seville business agent, and dispatched Amerigo to investigate the issue and create an assessment of a suggested replacement. In 1492, Amerigo had permanently settled in Seville, and he continued to conduct some business on behalf of his Medici patrons. However, he became increasingly involved with Gianotto's other activities, especially his support of Christopher Columbus's voyages. Gianotto invested 500,000 maravedis in Christopher Columbus's initial voyage and won a hypothetically lucrative contract to provision Christopher's large second fleet. In 1495, Gianotto Berardi signed a contract with the Crown to spend 12 resupply ships to Hispaniola, but lost his life unexpectedly in December without completing the terms of the contract. Amerigo was the executor of Gianotto's will, collecting debts and paying unresolved obligations for the firm. Afterward, he was left with a debt of 140,000 maravedis, and he continued to provision vessels bound for the West Indies, but his opportunities were waning. Christopher Columbus's expeditions were not providing the profits they had hoped for, and his patron Lorenzo di Pier Francesco Medici was using other Florentine agents for his business in Seville. The evidence for Amerigo's expeditions of exploration consists almost totally of a handful of letters he had written or that were attributed to him. As a result, historians have differed greatly on these documents' authorship, truthfulness, and integrity. Beginning in the late 1490s, Amerigo participated in 2 expeditions to the New World that are fairly well documented in the historical record. However, the other 2 have been alleged, but the evidence is more debatable. A letter dated 1504 and published the next year was said to be an account by Amerigo of an expedition to the New World, leaving Spain on May 10, 1497, and returning on October 15, 1498. This is probably his most controversial expedition, as the letter is its only known record, causing historians to doubt it. Some question the writing and correctness of the letter and consider it to be fake, while others point to the irregularities in the expedition's narrative, predominantly the alleged course. Certain earlier historians suspected that Amerigo combined observations from a later expedition into a fabricated account of this alleged first one, so as to gain importance over Christopher Columbus and place himself as the first European explorer to come across the mainland. Others suggest that the letter was not written by Amerigo, but by an unknown author who had access to his private letters to Lorenzo di Medici about his 1499 and 1501 expeditions to the Americas. However, in 1499, Amerigo joined an expedition approved by Spain. They intended to explore the coast of a new landmass discovered by Christopher Columbus on his 3rd expedition. In particular, they would investigate a rich source of pearls that he had reported. Amerigo and his backers funded 2 of the 4 ships in the small fleet, and he gave the impression that he was in charge when he later wrote about this experience. However, that is questionable due to his inexperience. In 1501, Manuel I of Portugal commissioned an expedition to explore a landmass far to the west in the Atlantic Ocean, which became present-day Brazil, discovered unexpectedly by Pedro Alvarez Cabral on his journey around Africa to India. The king wanted to know the extent of this discovery and determine where it lay in relation to the line recognized by the Treaty of Tordesillas. Amerigo's reputation as an explorer and presumed navigator had reached Portugal, and the king hired him to serve as a pilot under the command of Goncalo Coelho. In 1503, Amerigo may have taken part in a second expedition for the Portuguese king to explore the east coast of Brazil. There is evidence that an expedition was led by Goncalo Coelho, but no independent confirmation that Amerigo took part. Amerigo's journeys became popular in Europe after 2 accounts were published between 1503 and 1505. They came to the attention of a group of humanist scholars studying geography in Saint-Dié, a small French town in the Duchy of Lorraine. They got a French translation of the letter and a Portuguese maritime map that showed the coast of lands recently discovered in the western Atlantic. They inferred that this was the New World, hypothesized by classical writers, and gave Amerigo credit for discovering this new continent, implying that the Portuguese map was based on his explorations. In April 1507, Ringman and Wald C. Müller published their book, Introduction to Cosmography, with a world map. In a preface to Amerigo's letter, Ringman wrote, "I see no reason why anyone could properly disprove of a name derived from that of Amerigo, the discoverer, a man of sagacious genius. A suitable form would be Amerige, meaning land of Amerigo, or America, since Europe and Asia have received women's names." In 1538, Gerardus Mercator used the name America to name both the North and South continents of this influential map. But this time, the name had been firmly fixed on the New World. Thank you for watching this video. Hit us up in the comment section and give us a thumbs up if you liked the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos.